friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And today is actually May 19th that I'm shooting this video, so it'll be probably later in June by the time you see this. And that's just my way of staying ahead on my videos. I say this because this is not actually a garden update, so what you see behind me is going to be a lot more full by the time that you're seeing this, as my grapevines continue to fill in, as do the blueberries. In fact, by then I should be picking blueberries. So anyway, I wanted to get onto this topic that I woke up this morning thinking about. So I woke up hearing the sounds of the birds. It's not even light yet, and I love that. I love waking up to bird song in the morning. And it reminded me of an article I had read quite a few years ago. I'm thinking at least 15 years ago, about bird song and your plants and how plants react to the song of birds. When I came across the article, it was actually, this specific article was in a magazine called Creation Magazine that I used to get years ago. Really great magazine. And I used to get it when the kids were young, and it only came out like 4 times a year. I'm not even sure if it's still out there, but if it is, I will link to it below for those who like that kind of thing, might be interested, because there were always really great articles in there. In fact, I found one time just a fascinating one just on cranberry bogs that was just, it was just incredible. One of the things I really liked about the article was it went into the science of how plants react to the song of birds and other sounds as well. And it really just, to me as a believer in, creationism, it really just made so much sense, and amazed me even more that, God's design is perfect. But even if you believe in evolution and everything evolved this way, then it's really fascinating to learn how nature works in tandem with each other. We learn a lot about bees and how we need the bees to pollinate our plants, and then the bees also give us honey, and we all work together. And that goes for birds and crickets as well. Crickets will fall into this too, but I'm talking specifically about birds because early in the morning, the birds do so much with their song. What drives them to sing at that time of the day? Why? I don't know, but it really, their song wakes us up in the morning. It gets us going, and it's energizing. They actually did studies on people, on bird song and how it affected people. And so let's say one of the studies in particular was done on grade school kids. This was in Liverpool, and after lunchtime, when you hit that kind of crash, and you start to lose your attention span, what it did was it helped keep their alertness and increase their cognitivity throughout that time of the day when most of us, after we eat, we're going to a slump. So I found it really interesting that bird song not only is relaxing, it also helps increase our cognitivity. So it keeps us alert and keeps us focused. And from what I'm seeing in the studies, this applies to pretty much everything in nature. And so here is where it gets really interesting when you're talking about plants in particular. And that is that when plants are exposed to this particular sound, the kind of notes and the formation of the notes that birds make, what the plants have on their leaves and stem is something called stomata, and they're like little mouths, or even ears, if you will. But what these do, they kind of think of them more as mouths or pores, because what these do is these are the things that when they open up, they expel oxygen and also bring in nutrients into the plant and water. So that's how they get the water, that's how they get all the nutrients, is through this stomata. And I'm going to insert some pictures here so you can see what they look like. There's 2 types. There's one type that's in more of your round type leaves, and it's more of each side of it has kind of a kidney bean sort of shape to it. It's very rounded. It suits the round leaf shape. And then the other one is more of a dumbbell shape that you'll find in your grasses. And so these each have a name for them. The longer ones that are found in your grasses are called monocot, and the more rounded ones are called dicot. And so anyway, so you can see in these diagrams here, it will show the difference of an open and a closed stomata. And so what happens is when this bird starts singing, that stomata reacts to that sound by opening up. And this is seen over and over again, and studies have been done again and again. And here's what makes it even more interesting. They still do not know why this happens. They just know that it does, and they've proven that it does. And so there was a man by the name of Dan Carlson that, I think it was in 1985, that he came out with a product that he called Sonic Bloom. And basically what it was is he created his own version of a mix of bird song and some kind of new agey type music that you could play for your plants, and then at the same time spray them down with nutrients while this music was playing. So they're, the pores were widely open and ready to accept the nutrients. And what he saw in his plants when he started doing this was a 66% increase in growth. And I've looked this up and I've seen pictures, side-by-side pictures, and he even got in the Guinness Book of World Records for growing, if I read this correctly, just a house plant that typically only got maybe up to a foot, and he grew it to 1,300 feet by using his strategy. So I'm not here to sell this product, but I just woke up thinking about that, and I thought it was really interesting. Now, I've never actually tried the product itself, and the reason why is I think that we can find ways to create this in our own gardens if we so wish. So for those of you who have maybe poor soil conditions, you live in a place where maybe there's not a lot of birds around and you're trying to make this work, well, you can find online, you can, just like I did for this video, the opening and the ending of this video, you will hear bird song. I found little sound clips that I was able to download and use. And so I am going to experiment with this in my greenhouse. Even though we have plenty of birds around here making all kinds of rackets all different times of the day, I do want to do some experiments of my own with this. And it's something you could do, make your own little recording, put it together, and then maybe once, twice a day, play this around in your garden around your plants. That's one way you could do it. And even if you don't want to do it that way, something even more simple would be to get some classical music such as Vivaldi and Bach and Beethoven. And they have found that of all the music out there, the classical music, plants responded best to that because it had that it was most likely to sort of mimic the sound of birds and yet have not too much of a repetitive pattern. Because, bird song isn't that repetitive, especially when you have a bunch of different birds singing. And that's what tends to work best. It's funny because I'm talking here and this bird keeps flying back and forth right over here, just between the shop and the house. It's kind of bizarre. It's like it knows I'm talking about it. But anyway, I wish you could see it. But anyway, I have to see if I can catch it. I'm afraid it might be a starling trying to get up into my roof because they're bad at that. I think it's trying to find a way in. In fact, I should go look and see if it's made a way in because sometimes they'll do that. They're terrible at that. But then I have the naughty chickens behind me being birds, sneaking up onto the deck because they know I'm not looking at them. So anyway, back to the idea of playing the classical music. This is something you can try. Put some classical music on in your garden and see if you can see a difference in that. I just think it's really, really amazing how all these things work together. And this applies to so many things throughout nature. Everything in nature, everything that he's created is all made to work together. There's a synergy there in all of it. And just like, companion planting or growing your plants all together instead of just, having perfect straight rows of all one crop, mixing everything together and letting it work together. Because when you have a whole bunch of plants growing all amongst each other, even those things that people consider that shouldn't go together, like onions and beans, for example. I've seen my onions and beans grow perfectly happy side by side. What that does is it helps create the right kind of environment, like things would grow in nature, so that it confuses the pests. And these different plants, they provide nutrients for each other. And that was the other thing about this study on the plants, is as you know, the stomata opens up and they're bringing in those nutrients and they're giving us oxygen, and then they're also feeding those nutrients down into the soil that then gets into the other plants and then in turn feeds us. And then of course we're breathing out carbon dioxide that plants need to survive, so they breathe that in and convert it back into oxygen. It's just such a beautiful, wonderful design that God has made. And so anyway, I wanted to talk about this because not only do I think it's absolutely fascinating and exciting, it just shows you the importance that everything is that we have and how we can all work together with nature, with our garden. And I was hoping that throwing this out there, if you hadn't heard of it, maybe it can be something that you can try in your own garden. If you're having different different issues, just give it a try and see. Like I said, I haven't tried it yet. I'd like to experiment with it at some point. I'm thinking trying to experiment with it in a small area so I can see, like that's why I was thinking the greenhouse, so I can see the result. Besides, in the greenhouse, the plants in there won't be able to hear the bird song as well as the ones outside. But anyway, that's my plan. I'm going to try it, and if I ever get around to doing it, and I will eventually do some videos and showing you the results of that. But I'm not going to make any promises because we have a zillion things going on right now, and the possibility of me remembering to follow through is rather slim at this point. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you and hope that you find that, just even if it's not for you to try it in your garden, or you don't really feel the need for it, I just thought the information was just so cool, and I wanted to get it out there because I don't really hear or see people talking about this very often, and I think it's just such a big deal. And it was actually one I'd forgot about for some time, but when I learned about it, I was just blown away by it. So okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this video and that maybe you actually learned something new. Thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.